you can't give people that sort of power over shaping your identity. Or if you do, you're going to be perpetually unhappy. You're going to be perpetually chasing that next hit, that next high. It's the crocodile hunter effect. You're going to have to keep doing things that push the limits, so people will push the buttons that allow you to feel that same way again. And as long as how you feel is attached to how people respond, you're never going to be happy. You're never going to be comfortable with whatever your identity is.
Welcome to the Second Plan A podcast, where we take hard-earned lessons from the mats and convert them into tools for navigating life's challenges. I'm Amber Hoover. I'd rather stick to the plan.
I'm Ryan Hoover, and 2 years later?
She finally memorized it. Yeah, pretty much. So today we are moving on to our second Plan A. Don't worry, I only memorized it for that second. It's
I don't know how long we've
gone.
been doing this, but it seems like forever.
It's been a minute. On this episode, we're exploring the idea of identity, the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what happens when reality challenges those stories. So, short, easy topic.
Okay.
We were all over the place in our last episode.
Yeah, you were.
We covered stressors of life, making and breaking of systems. And so my goal with this episode, my plan, if you will, is to hone in on one key element that really has been the golden thread of many of our conversations, and that's identity. Because when we add up all the frictions we face in life, from social media to motivation, discipline, to family, pressure, stress, problem solving, New Year's resolutions, learned optimism, ego, passion, and purpose, it all exists to answer one question. Who am I?
No, you're not asking me.
Literally, my next line is, Ryan, who are you?
I thought you were asking me who you were.
Oh, okay. So you would know me better than I know me. I put dots in the outline because I was like, I don't know, this could be a whole 10-minute discussion, or it could just be, there's no use trying to figure that out and define that. Maybe we should think about it.
Yeah.
I'm sure we can think about it and figure it out.
Who I am, who you are?
Yeah.
Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
That doesn't sound fun.
No. Allow me to transport you to Thebes, Greece.
Okay.
For a story out of Greek mythology about a demigod who was driven mad and went into a murderous rampage, killing friends and family.
As demigods do.
Defeated a lion with his bare hands and captured bulls and boars. These are some of the challenges faced by Heracles, more commonly known today as Hercules. It's such a small screen, I lost my place. But long before these labors, he had two important heroic battles. One at 8 months old, when he strangled 2 snakes, and the next later on in life, when he faced the choice of 2 women. One who promised an easy life, named Vice, and the and the other who promised a difficult but meaningful life, named Virtue, and he chose the latter. Don't want to spend our entire time dissecting Greek mythology. However, I wanted to get into the first segment of our identity episode with that. And this segment is called Identity versus Performance. Who you think you are versus how you actually behave. And I think a lot of people would like to think that they would choose the path of virtue, but vice would be really tempting to take.
Yeah.
This is one of the things that I think social media really does a number on us for, because it's so easy to put out who you think you are and assume that that's how people are and not realize that their actions might not be matching what they're saying they do or what they value.
Yeah, and I think we've touched on this probably a few different times in a few different ways. The idea of, like, generally speaking, people are putting their best facade on Instagram or whatever, I think probably for a host of reasons. One, because it's who they would actually like to be,
Yeah.
So it's the front-facing, forward-facing version of, I don't even think it's who they think they are necessarily, but who they would wish that they were.
What they want other people to think they are.
Yeah, definitely that. But I do think that they maybe wish they were at that as well. I'm sure some people buy into it. I'm sure some people believe it, and it's easy to do, especially on social media, where you post a thing that is who you would like to be, and you get a lot of engagement, positive reinforcement, the dopamine hits and everything. And so the perpetuation of that is to post more things like that. So it's really easy to become, in air quotes, the person that you would like to identify with, but you're not actually becoming that person.
That part, having a healthy relationship of who you actually are. And, it's not necessarily malicious when people post things that are showing who they want to be and they pick the best of the 8 clips of them doing something or whatever it might be, and they act like this is just what they do. But it can become a detriment if you really start wrapping your mind around, this is the identity, this is who I am, and then anytime something goes to challenge it, even though it's just part of human nature, that
Right.
again, you're putting your best foot forward on Instagram and people are assuming that's who you are, and so it creates this
Well, I think what happens is you start protecting a thing that's not even real.
Yeah.
So you go out of your way, you create this image that's not who you actually are. It's not your true identity. But because it has earned you favor in some way, whether it's monetary or social or, some combination of those things. And then so you start doing things to protect this false image, this false identity. And those things probably take you further and further away from that image that you're trying to create, because you're going to do things that in a protection mode won't allow you to be challenged and be that thing that you want other people to think that you are. So like in our world, if you post a video of you doing some cool fancy move or movement or whatever, and maybe it's in kickboxing or jiu-jitsu or whatever, and you get thousands of views or likes or shares or whatever.
However you decide you're measuring
Right, whatever metric
your
you're
value
using.
off of social media.
Right. Lots of affirming, validating comments.
Dopamine hits.
And then when it comes time to roll or spar, it's like, oh, maybe I'll sit this one out because I'm not actually the person that can do that thing when it comes to it, And so you become less and less of that person because you
can't expose that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's tough. I understand, especially in our world, I understand how it can happen because the things that really get attention in the social space tend to be the things that don't actually really work. So if you put it out there that I can do this thing, this is something that I do, this is something that I teach, I've hit it in live rolling or live sparring or whatever, because it's going to get you hits and maybe get you seminars or members or whatever.
Yeah.
But then in our space, it's kind of hard to hide,
Right.
the mats don't lie. And so if you can't actually do those things, you either get exposed. And I hate to use the term exposed because, if you're doing it right, failure is part of what we do. It's built in. It's,
right.
That's the mechanism.
And there's a subset of social media that understands that. However, the vocal majority are not giving you any kind of leeway.
Right. And if you have intentionally or unintentionally fed into that, then you have to go to great lengths to then protect it. Protect an identity that was never real in the first place.
Right. It gets to be a very tangled web. And you probably, again, you do kind of get confused between who you are, who you think you are, who the internet has now told you to be, and how you behave. And that's a good movement into segment 2, which is identity is built through reps.
Mm-hmm.
And not just reps on the mat, but through your continued decisions, through your behaviors, through your actions. A lot of people, and I made the joke in the beginning of this episode, think that you'll just...
You made a joke?
So rude. That you'll just think about it. Like, if you just think about it enough, you'll figure out what your identity is. You just have to sit there and decide and say who you are. You're still caught on the joke part.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember laughing. Did I laugh?
No.
Oh, yeah. Sounds right.
I have a very dry
So you
humor.
did make a joke. Okay, got it.
I spoke very facetiously about how we should just sit here and think about who we are.
Oh, okay.
Because we would for sure figure it out.
Got it.
But that's not how you build identity. Oh my gosh. You know
You're
what?
funny.
I made a terrible joke last night in my class, and I got pity giggles, and I thanked them for it, and I was
Was it a kids
happy.
class?
It was an adults class, but by the definition we have,
Adults?
yeah, exactly,
Like
yeah,
Jay
it was adult, like
Parsons?
Jay Parsons. Jay Parsons is always game for my
What's
jokes, and
up,
I
Jay?
appreciate it so much. So anyway, identity is built through reps.
Yeah. I wrote an article recently on Substack called The Re-Rack.
Oh, I love that one. It maybe informed a little of this.
Yeah. Well, when you started talking about this segment, that's what made me think of it. I go on a little bit of a tangent because, this is a constant daily thing. You go in, and honestly, it's more annoying to me that people re-rack in the wrong spot and like mix plates than just not re-racking at
Yes,
all.
like if you're gonna do it, just do it right. Like, what is the
Like,
problem
why
here?
did you even bother if you're just gonna mix them all up and whatever? But anyway, and kind of the impetus for the article was I think you're either someone who re-racks or you're not.
Mhm.
And like if you are, never once do you consider maybe I'll just leave these plates here.
Right.
Like
Right. Yeah.
it never crosses your mind, or maybe
I've never put a shopping cart on like a curb and been like, "This is fine."
Right.
Like I'm
No, I
either
don't.
taking it back or putting it to the
Yeah,
cart.
I
It's
don't. Like I literally don't think about that.
Yeah.
It never enters my mind that maybe just this one time I won't put the plates back, or I won't take the rack back, or the shopping cart back, or whatever. Like, and I think that's probably developed over time of seeing people that are close to you in your life or whatever doing the in quotes right thing.
Mhm.
Being exposed to people that when you're learning how to lift weights or whatever, they just re-rack. It's probably not a conversation that was ever had.
No.
Nobody had to tell you to do it. You saw other people doing it, and it was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Because when I come back here the next time, it makes it a lot easier for me, and why would I not do that for other people? And so, like we both lifted today, at no point did it ever occur to me to just leave things where I've finished with them.
Right. Right.
And so yeah, I think that idea of identity being built through repetition, like the things that you habitually do versus who you think you might want to be. It's like the idea of finding yourself or whatever. Sorry, is that on there?
I know you didn't read this outline, but it literally says the myth of finding yourself.
Yeah. So like that thing is like it presumes that somewhere deep down inside you there's a whole ass another human
that you just have
that is
not
just
found.
waiting to be discovered.
Mhm.
And it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that's not like it rationally, if you put any thought to that, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But you hear people say it all the time. You
Right.
understand why they say
Well,
it.
and find your passion and all,
Right. And I mean I do think there's something to that on some level. But finding your identity or finding who you are or whatever, that's not, I don't think that's a real thing. Who you are, your identity happens over time. That
Mhm.
it's something that you build, it's something that you construct, it's something that you create through the habits that you place value in.
So this is a little bit of foreshadowing. But so would you argue that how you
I would not argue. I don't do that.
would you say that how you perform the first time you are under stress or pressure has been building and developed? You didn't know that side of you because it hadn't been put to the test,
Right.
but it had been created, built, designed, whatever, through your upbringing, your experiences, your nature, your nurture, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's seeing who you are, but not actually finding yourself.
Right. And I mean, like that's the value of failure. Like
Yeah.
it allows me to see where I am, see where maybe the gaps and holes are, things that I can fix, things that maybe I don't need to fix, that I'm strong in. Because it could be that I'm exposed to something that there's no reason I would have ever been exposed to it before. And so my habits wouldn't necessarily have prepared me for it. But yeah, I mean, generally speaking, what we do under duress, what we do under stress is probably not something that just happened in that moment. It's something that's been formed over time through the things that we have placed value on. And we place value on things a lot of different ways, but time is probably one of the more important ones. The things that we put our energy into, the things that we devote time away from other things,
Yeah.
our priorities or whatever. That's what builds our identity, you know?
Yeah, when time is our most precious resource that we only have so much of,
Yeah.
and we don't even know how much we have,
No.
what you choose to devote your energies to and spend that time doing
Right.
to create those habits. In your article, you used the quote and elaborated on it, and I'll let you get into it here too.
Okay.
How you do one thing is how you do anything.
Yeah.
And
I find that to be mostly bullshit.
you agree there are some
Yeah.
elements of truth to it. And
Yeah.
like
That's the mostly part.
we did a whole episode about how these like short pithy quotes don't really give you the correct full story, but it looked like it hit a nerve.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it defies logic, because what we just talked about was the things that I put my time and energy and resources into are the things that I place value on. Well, I can't do that with everything. Like, it doesn't even make sense. Like, if I place value on lifting weights or my personal health, fitness, whatever, that's no necessarily reflection on what my yard looks like.
Right.
You know, like,
Yeah.
I might put a lot of time and energy and effort into my overall health and well-being or whatever, and because my shrubs need trimming, like
Yeah. You know how much your protein intake is for every meal, but you don't care that your grass is 4 inches instead of 3,
Right,
or that
right.
you're.
By the way, I don't know my protein for every meal.
I know.
But I also don't give a shit how long my grass is.
Well, and like,
um,
there are people very obsessed with tracking their macros
Sure.
and that sort of thing,
Oh,
and
of
that's
course.
not part of what we put a priority on either.
Nope. But it's like,
But we have 6 animals who
look at
know their
somebody like
protein
Steve
content.
Jobs. Steve Jobs was massively successful as an innovator, an inventor, an entrepreneur, a business person, a revolutionary. But by all accounts, he was a terrible husband and father.
Terrible people person in general.
Like, so I mean, that in and of itself just shows, like, how you do one thing is not necessarily how you do all things.
It usually can't be that way.
Right. That's what I was going to say. I'm not even sure that's possible. Like, my time, my energy, my focus, it's all finite, and I have to choose how to allocate it. And that necessarily is going to mean that some things are not going to get the same kind of care and attention and whatnot. My truck is a hot mess. It stays that way. I don't care. Like, I personally don't care. I will clean it out when I need for my truck to be cleaned out,
But if you walk,
if I walk in here and there's a piece of paper on the mat, I'm like, what are we doing?
What the heck?
Like, why is that, or there's a light bulb out, things like that. I place considerably more value on, because I think they're more representative of what matters to me.
I think how you do one thing is how you could do anything, but then we have to choose and prioritize based on our values.
If I wanted to keep my truck spotless, then I could do that, but it's necessarily going to take time away from other things that I'm doing. Like, it just is. Well, get up half an hour earlier. Well, at some point, you're going to get up so early that you might as well not go to sleep.
Yeah, I have to sleep. All right.
I don't really.
He doesn't. You don't. I don't even understand. Actually, no, you did post, you sent me that article about why some people don't sleep at night and the calmness, and anyway.
But apparently there's like some
you.
genetic thing too. Like, something like 1 to 3% of the population only needs like 3 or 4 hours of sleep. And I mean, my thing is, like, if for some weird reason I would sleep 7 or 8 hours, I don't
You
feel
don't feel
good.
good. No, I know
I don't.
immediately.
Like, my energy is off. It doesn't work for me. So I probably got about.
Really? That many?
Yeah. And not consecutively.
Yeah.
Not straight through.
Okay, that makes sense. All right. Well, his identity is not built through reps of sleeping.
No.
Or rapid eye movement.
No.
Reps of rapid eye movement. Reps of REMs. Let's move on to the next segment. Identity and ego.
Okay.
We kind of hit on this really in the first one, and I held myself off from jumping over. Not that these are in any particular order necessarily, but I
should
think
maybe read an outline every now and then.
Nah, it's fine. Having a good time. Obviously, we kind of hit more of the martial arts world
Yeah.
as we go into the identity that I'm going to say you have to build. You don't have to, but really in the modern era with social media, you do have to kind of build a reputation to show your community that you are the source for what it is you do. And then your ego tells you you have to protect this identity
Yeah.
that you've built. And it's not that, again, these things are intentionally misleading, but if you actually want attention and views, you have to pick the right things and curate correctly for the audience.
Yeah.
And it does get,
Which is why I suck at social media so bad.
it gets convoluted.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I'm not social media savvy. I know how to do it. Like I could do it for somebody else, you know, but I'm terrible with it myself. And I
Is
tend
that
to
the
take
identity you tell yourself, or
no, I'm just not, I, I'm not willing to do it for me.
yes,
I'm just not,
it's
you
your
know?
truck, right?
Yeah, I see the value in it, but it's not important enough for me for the trade-off,
Mhm.
you know? So I tend to take more of and there's another article I wrote, the Be Rabbit kind of strategy, where it's like, look, this is who I am. This is what I have done. This is what I haven't done, you know, kind of a take it or leave it kind of thing. And I don't walk out onto the mats expecting to roll through everybody or smash everybody in sparring or whatever. That's that's not my value as a coach, you know. And if people are looking for that in a coach, then that person I'm sure exists. And
Oh, yeah.
you know, it's like anything else. You have to decide what's on the student side, the end user side. You have to decide what's important to you, what you place value on. And if you place value on your coach being able to beat everybody in the room, then okay, then go do that. If you place more value on your coach being able to get you to be able to beat everybody in the room, then that might be worth considering.
This
But
is
I get how social media can drive people. I don't think it starts out as ego. For some people, it does for sure. But I think it starts out as you see what everybody else is doing, so you think, okay, well, I have to do that, and then once you do that, and again, like we were talking about earlier, once you do that and you get the positive reinforcement that comes along with it, then ego kicks in, and then you feel like you have to start protecting that thing that you have created,
yeah,
not the
and
thing
show
that you
that you are.
built, not the
Yeah.
thing that you constructed, not the thing that you created through habits, the thing that you created through a little bit of smoke and mirrors and a little bit of sleight of hand and editing and whatnot. I mean, that's the world we live in now. So I get it, but I'm not willing to do it
It's
for
funny
me.
because yeah, like on our website, we'd never put like Charlotte's Most Okay Self Defense School, like, like best self defense in the Charlotte area. And I'll tell you what, we are it and we believe it, and that
Yeah,
is our identity. But
right.
surely there's someone else saying the same thing and thinking the same thing.
They're wrong,
They are wrong.
but
So,
um,
tied along identity and portraying yourself on social media and the community you build inside,
mhm,
a lot of times you end up with people quitting because they either didn't understand the community, you didn't clarify the culture, or you were the wrong match and you weren't willing to admit it. Like you
mhm,
were talking about, if you value your coach running through everybody on the mat,
mhm,
and that should be every day after class, you think the coach is rolling and crushing people,
right.
we're probably not going to be the place for you. There's not a lot of value in just trying to crush people every day, but there are plenty of places that you can go for that.
Yeah, of course.
And
And I'm not passing judgment one way or the other. I mean, it's their time, it's their money. If that's what they want for their time and their money, then that's what they should get. But yeah, they're not gonna get that from me. I don't. For one, this is what I do for a living, and I'm not going to on a daily basis put my body on the line to protect some sort of facade that I don't care about.
and like, and I get, oh, it's a red flag if the coach doesn't roll, and that's true. And I'm not saying we don't roll with
Yeah,
students. We
let's
do,
be clear.
yeah.
Like we spar, we roll, but I'm not like
It's not every day
no
touching hands. Let's try to murder each other.
everybody in the room. I'm not.
No.
I'll just be real. I'm not doing that. Especially if I don't really know you. Like we're not rolling because I'm not going to take the chance of you thinking like you're going to walk out of here hands up
with
in the
some kind
air
of belt
and
around your
right.
waist for
And
yeah.
you, so you try to murder me for 4 minutes. Like,
Yeah.
I personally don't feel like I have anything to prove. So therefore I don't care to do that. Like I wrote a post a few months back. I was teaching jiu-jitsu in the Charlotte Center, and one of the members there, he used to be a competitive power lifter, big, strong dude, but like the nicest, smiliest guy there is.
Of course.
And I'm standing off to the side watching people roll, and he's the odd person out. And he comes over and very respectfully asks if I would roll with him, and I did. You know, it wasn't like a thing. You know, so I don't want to make it sound like this doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It's just it's not a matter of course for me. Like it's not a given that every class I'm going to roll with every person or I'm going to spar with every person. I'm just not. Here a couple weeks ago in the sporology class, same kind of thing. One of the guys was an odd person out, and I still had my shins on. No, I didn't have my shins on, but I had my gloves on. And he asked me if I would spar around with him, and I did. You know, so it's not like
No, but the decisions you have to make there too are: am I in a position where the room is safe with me working in? And a lot of times that answer is no. I need to make sure that people are. My main job is to make sure you are protected.
well, I mean,
not to go off and spar and
in
roll.
our coach development courses, I make a point of saying this, like, because as soon as you start sparring, it becomes about you.
Yes.
As soon as you start rolling, it becomes about you. And if I'm going to spar, if I'm going to roll, I need to give attention to that thing, you know. And so if I lose what's happening in my room, that's not fair to everybody else in the room, and it's just not safe, you know. Like that's not my time to get my sparring in. That's not my time to get my training in. And I'm not saying don't ever do it. I'm not, you know, whatever. And if this is how you run your center, that's fine. I'm just saying for me, for my coaches, I would prefer them coach.
Yes. Don't sit here to try to prove your ego.
Right.
Like, be a coach. All right, I want to move to segment 4. And I know we didn't hit a lot on the identity and ego, but I feel like that's been a main theme throughout a lot of our previous podcasts. So if you feel like we were way too thin, go listen to almost anything else. Okay, so segment 4 is identity under stress.
Okay.
And I want to start off with a story from almost a decade ago now. We had about a 10-year-old student named Aiden in the Impact program who decided he wanted to do a jiu-jitsu tournament. We don't do a ton. We do some every now and then. We don't do a ton of kids, but he wanted to. He trained a lot. His stepdad and other family members were involved, and so they went on to do it. And he was a fine student. He mostly did what you told him. He had kind of one speed on the mats, as many kids do. He caused the usual amount of 10-year-old laden strife in our lives, but otherwise just, you know, a normal kid. And then he walked onto the mats for his first competition match. He took his slouchy, lanky 10-year-old posture, touched hands, and was shot out of a cannon to win like his life depended on it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, after we wiped the shocked look off our faces, we're left with pride and excitement and encouragement as this Aiden appeared like a Pokemon evolution.
Mm-hmm.
I know I lost
you on that one. I don't know about that
part, but I thought that was a good example of he wasn't finding himself like that. That's just a part of who he was, and through his 10 years of life and how he was raised and how he responded to things, he had that in him. We never saw it on the mats in class where the stress and the pressure never got to that point. But when we saw it in that competition, we got to see that side of him.
Yeah.
That part of his identity.
Right.
If you will.
Yeah, I mean, he was in here at that point in his training. He wasn't exposed to a context that required him to go to that level, you know. And whether he knew he had that level or not, I don't really know. But outside looking in, it was pretty seamless. You know, he touched hands, and all of a sudden he was hitting 4th, 5th, and 6th gear, and I'd never seen those things from him. You know, I mean, the techniques were what the techniques were, and you know, the things that he had trained and drilled in here materialized there, but they were applied with like a level of ferocity and intensity that, you know, we had not seen before.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like he found that day, You know,
Right.
like that's
Right.
not real. And he didn't just see red. Because it's not like he was out of control or
Hmm.
chaotic or anything like that. He did the things that he had learned in training. He just did them at a much more elevated level of intensity.
There's only so much too that like thinking will get you towards. Even if he did think before going into that match, I'm gonna go after him. I'm gonna kick it up, which I
Yeah.
don't think he did. But just because you have that thought doesn't mean it happens. Which again is a lot of the see red community
Yeah.
thinking that, well, mentally I've told myself that I'll do this, so I'll do it.
Right. Well, I mean, that's, and I think we've talked about this before. The gym fighter,
Hmm.
the person that inside the gym, the training center is like they're running through people, and maybe even on fight night and warm ups, like they look crisp
They're
and
spot on,
whatever,
yeah.
and then you start walking to the ring or to the cage, and all of a sudden you see them kind of melt a little bit. They don't perform at that level, and that's kind of the flip side of the Aidens. They didn't handle that level of stress and pressure the way that they had done when didn't really matter.
We could again perseverate on this one, but stress reveals identity faster than many things, and that's part of the edge of pressure episode. Your concept of boundary and applying continued stress and finding where that optimal point of stress is
Right.
to function and exhibit behaviors to choose your responses, but put the pedal to the metal while not being completely overwhelmed and deteriorate your
Yeah.
skills.
Where you just break down and,
Mm-hmm.
again, like I think if you're doing it right, and this applies to most things, failure should be built in, right? Like
Yeah.
we need to get to a point where we're challenging ourselves enough to where we are failing because that's where the lessons are. If I'm not getting to that point, then it's very difficult to figure out how I'm going to improve, how I'm going to get better. Because I don't know what I need to improve on. I don't know what I need to do to get better. Maybe it's my cardio,
Mm-hmm.
but because I'm finishing rounds in 18 seconds, I never get exposed.
Right. Right.
So I have to find people that are going to push me past that 18 seconds. Into the not just the 2 or 3 minutes, but the 2 or 3 rounds. Or maybe it's I've got a great clinch game, but I'm terrible on my back. So I got to find somebody that can match my clinch game and maybe surpass it to put me there and challenge me in that way. Because if I never get put on my back, then it's hard to know that that's where the gap is.
I mean, rule one is always have the dominant position. So, all
Yeah.
right. Segment five, we touched on this one, but I didn't give it a name, so I'm hitting it now. Identity drift, and this is where I tied in social media culture, just this modern problem of having these facade or borrowed identities, or the term that I'll admit ChatGPT gave me was algorithmic identities. And I was like, oh, that's real.
Hmm.
When you do things to feed the algorithm machine and
Right.
it'll get you bumped up and
Sure.
you're picking a trend or a song or a storyline or whatever it is because it's popular right now and getting you a lot of views.
Yeah.
So these performative online identities that are kind of part of your job or
Yeah.
building your business. And you do get this kind of drift of, wait, who am I outside of these things?
Right. I mean, we do have friends in this space that do really, really well in the social media world. We have friends that's literally how they make their living. And one I've told before, that he is brilliant at making what I think should be a 90-second video 10 minutes.
What's up, Icy Mike?
And I think, but it's not, he is who
It
he
is,
is.
yeah.
He might turn it up a notch or two, but that's who he is. He's not pretending to be another person,
Right, right.
Um,
Well, except when he is, but yes.
he,
No, but
he,
it's Darren Levine. It's your identity turned up.
yeah, it's not an act,
Right.
I mean, to some degree, we're all acting. When we get up in front of a group of people, I have to be more engaging than I normally am. I don't do small talk. I'm not like going to engage people, even people I like. I'm not going to just engage in random small talk and that kind of thing and joke around or whatever. But I have that in me, and I understand that when I'm in front of a group of people, especially if you want to get them to buy in on what you're saying and what you're doing and what you're talking about, you have to find ways to engage them beyond just the material. And so on some level, if you're going to coach or you're going to teach somebody or you're going to, have some sort of internet presence or whatever, you have to push your identity beyond, I think what it kind of naturally sits at. Doesn't mean that you're being somebody you're
Pretending,
not,
yeah.
you're just being who you are and turning it up a little, you're putting a little more volume to it.
It's funny when I think about then teaching like group seminars where we start with a little bit of the preemption type scenarios where from your hard ready session, we have them be the most confident person on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And they all can do it. Even though the majority of people we're talking and teaching to are introverted, or they would rather keep to themselves, they'd rather not be big and tall and eye contact and handshakes and touching and all this kind of stuff, but they have that side of them in them. And it's important to be able to bring out that person when you need it.
Well, I mean, that's where, and this is a little bit outside the scope of what we're talking about, that's where being a good coach matters. Being able, because realistically, when I run those types of sessions, all that's really happening is I'm just giving them permission to do that.
Yeah.
I don't give them any direction whatsoever on how to do it,
Right.
what it should look like, what it should sound like, what gestures they should make. Nothing. I literally say for the next 15 seconds, walk around the room, introduce yourself to as many people as you can, and you are the most confident person you have ever met in your life. And they all go do it.
Yep.
And the energy in the room, the volume in the room, everything gets amplified 20-fold. And it's solely based on me just saying, it's okay to go do this now.
Right.
So they already know it, how to do it. It's already in there. Now they're being given permission to turn that up, They're not creating a new person. That person exists in them. And that's what you do when you're, on YouTube or I think if you're genuine, I mean, there are definitely people on YouTube that are playing a role. They are.
I mean,
they are
anyone
being
can
a
be an
character.
influencer, so it's fine. Yeah. Okay. Segment 6. Maybe we'll talk about it. Maybe we'll just cut the episode off now. Rebuilding identity. Is this real? Is this new? Can we change who we are? Do we have actionable measures we can take to become who we want to be?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we're not, like, obviously there's some hardwiring that happens within us from a DNA standpoint. But generally speaking, I think all of us to a degree have been nurtured to be who we are. Hardwiring aside, if you take a pair of twins and you separate them at birth and they're raised in completely different families, you're going to have very different humans.
There was a study done on this where they took twins and one was raised like on a different side of the coast kind of thing, and their environment mattered more than their genetics.
Yeah. So that in and of itself tells us that we can shape, form our identity. I think it probably gets harder over time, but it gets harder, I think, just because it is harder. It's harder to change a thing than to start a new thing, I think,
Well, rebranding.
Yeah. It requires a level of uncomfortability that I think most of us are just not willing to do. Because first of all, you got to admit that whoever I am right now is not ideal for whatever reason, and I think just getting past that is going to be difficult for most of us, me included. I have to admit that I'm not the best version of me that I could be, and so then you got to really be insightful about, okay, well, what is it about me that I feel is less than what it should be, And so now you got to start identifying, okay, well, where are my gaps? Where are my shortcomings? That's hard, and so it's not even, I think it's not even that changing is necessarily that hard. It's the process of getting to the point where I'm actually going to try to facilitate change that's hard, the lead up to it. We have a member here, this just happened last week. We have a member here, she's been here 8 or 9 months. I forget what she said, but it was one of those. a lot of my fitness classes at the end, we just, we'll do a plank hold, something like that. 3 minutes, 4 minutes, kind of thing. Sometimes we'll do a circuit, whatever. And at the end of class last week, she says to me, I've been here 8 months, 9 months, I can't remember which one, but that's the first time I've been able to hold the plank for the full 3 minutes. And so, I mean, is that a physical metric? Yes. Because it was a mindset shift. It was a mental and an emotional change in who she was, because when she showed up here, she thought, there is no freaking way I'm ever going to be able to hold a 3 minute plank. And physically, she wasn't in terrible shape when she showed up, when she got here. And so I'm using this as an example because it's an easy one to quantify.
Yeah.
It's an easy one to look at, start, finish kind of thing. So yeah, I think we can change our identity if we truly want to do that. I don't believe in, can a leopard change its spots? No, it's a fucking leopard and it has spots. Like, that's dumb.
Yeah.
We're not leopards,
Yeah.
We're humans and we have free will. And if we decide that we actually want to be a different kind of person, we can do that. But it's going to take work. Just like if I decide I want to bench 265 pounds or whatever, like most humans at some age group are going to have the capacity to do that, but it's going to take a lot of work to do it. Most males, I should say, probably. Most females, probably 265 is probably pushing it. But
and canceled.
I mean,
no, I know.
If people have a problem with reasonable, rational arguments, then they're listening to the wrong podcast. It just is what it is. Like,
they didn't make it that far, so it's good. We're left with just our core audience.
So anyway,
that mindset shift though, because it would be easy for her to walk in, think I'll never be able to do that, and never shift that mindset. And even though her body becomes capable, because she hasn't shifted her mindset, she's not able to. Especially something time bound like the plank challenge.
Yeah.
Your mind quits way before your body.
Oh yeah.
And so.
And I mean, I mess with them the whole time. We're 30 seconds in, and I'll say halfway of a third. We get halfway through and it's like, oh my God, we're just halfway through. And I'm calling these out. And I can see it on faces, I can see it in postures and body language. But it makes it that much better when they actually hit that 3 minutes. And I've been messing with them through that whole 3 minutes, and
and you call it time for real.
Yeah.
And
By the way, I don't think most men are benching 265.
That's
either,
true. Most people aren't benching 265.
But that's not I don't think that's an indictment on human physical potential. I think that's just where we're spending place our priority.
The mindset change. I feel like everybody should try to do something that walking into it, they thought there's no way I'll be able to do that.
Yeah.
Because overcoming that obstacle and picking something small at the beginning, I think we're in around near the season of Lent doing the 40-day change, shift in behaviors and habits, and leaving religion out of it. If you start that thinking there's no way I can go 40 days without alcohol or pizza or whatever or 40 days of starting each day with gratitude or whatever you choose to do, and then at the end realizing that you followed through, that has a lot of weight towards helping you continue to change in the future. Having that, it's back to self-efficacy, having a mastery experience that you can point to. I did this thing already that I thought I couldn't possibly do, so now let's do another one.
Well, it's back to the original Hard Ready program where we start weekly restricting things.
Mm-hmm.
The first level is you're adding things. The second level is you're taking things away. I mean, that's how I became plant-based. I was doing everything that I was asking students to do already, so I tried to find a way to challenge myself. And I just cold turkey one day went from full-on carnivore to full-on vegan. And, the plan was 12 weeks. And it was a rough 12 weeks only because I didn't really know what I was doing. I lost a lot of weight. I looked terrible. Like it was not good. But I felt better. My energy levels were better and whatever. And so I never went back. And, it took me a while to figure out how to do it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that was the impetus for the original Hard Ready program was, all right, well, let's identify some things that I think I either can't do or I can't do without. And let's challenge that.
Yeah.
Okay, you got to have a cup of coffee every morning. Not for the next 12 weeks, you don't. And I mean that's real because withdrawal is a real thing, and caffeine is a drug, and I mean
Yeah.
it's that's very hard. But even beyond that, so much of it is just habitual. You know, you create these habits, these things that offer a level of comfort. You know, I start my day with
Mhm.
this, and now all of a sudden that's not there anymore, and we figure out that we've created these attachments to things that we literally thought we could not exist without. I mean, in the kids program, you know, you have kids for a couple of classes, and then you have them break a board. You
Mhm.
know,
Yeah.
that's a thing that as an adult we look at it and like, well, yeah, of course. But as a kid, you're looking at it and you're thinking, well, I can't do that. You know, I can't break a board. What are you talking about? And then after 2 or 3 classes, they're breaking a board, and they never do it again. But they've set a precedent for identifying a thing that seems impossible, getting through that thing, and now throughout their training, they can look back on that. You can
Bring
reference
that
that
up. Yeah.
again. You know, look, you remember when you thought breaking a board was impossible? Well, now you're learning a triangle, you know, or you're trying to escape side control, and that's easy compared to what you already, you know, that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
And by the way, look, adults are not much
Adults should probably break a
more
board
more
too after a
more
couple classes,
complicated
but
than
yeah,
that,
no,
you know.
no. So with the kids,
Uh-huh.
our kids program includes a homework sheet. They do it once a month. It's nothing to stress about. It's again, it's one piece of paper. We are checking at it and looking it over, but it's not like we're correcting grammar and having them redo it or anything, you know, kind of crazy. But it allows you to have more things you can reference and communicate to this child with. Some of them ask about their goals and where they want to be in life. And a lot of kids, for a little while, they all wanted to be YouTubers. I'm proud to say those have seemed to fallen off. We're back to good old police and firefighters and doctors and lawyers and attorneys. And you know, whatever else. Not that any of these other things are bad, but when YouTubers started taking over that paperwork, it was depressing.
Ugh.
But you know, that's another way to communicate. This is something you're passionate about. Even at 7 years old, you want to be a police officer. Well, that's not going to be easy. You're going to have to do a lot of training. This is something, one, that will help you in the future, but learning how to continue to progress and continue to learn in this way is part of what you're going to have to do down the line.
Yeah, yeah, and again, identity is built through reps, you know, and the earlier you get those reps, the more readily you build who it is that you want to be. I used to do this in my kids' classes, and I saw Riley last week doing it. Riley is alternating, having different kids run warm ups, you know, and you take an 8-year old, you know, that probably came in, you know, a lot of the reason that we get kids here has little to do with self defense. You know, it's more about developing some confidence and
Confidence.
some assertiveness, and you know, taking that 8-year old that 4 months ago wouldn't look you in the eye when they talk to you, and now you're having them run a warm up for the whole class. Uh, I think sets them up to where they are able to choose their identity earlier, faster. They are able to start building that and crafting it instead of allowing somebody else to do it for them.
It's true because the more you let other people tell you your identity, and I've seen this with parents too. The kid walks in and the parent's already telling me, "Oh, they're shy. They don't do this, or you know, they don't really like to engage, or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is." And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't need to tell me this.
Yeah.
We're gonna see what happens.
Right.
I'm gonna build them.
And I've literally had parents tell me stuff like that before, and I get them in class, and I'm like, I don't see the
What are
child
you talking about?
that
Yeah,
you're telling me
yeah,
about, you know.
yeah.
And sometimes it may just be the environment, the
Mhm.
context, and that's fair. But
But that's something to know
yeah,
because you don't have an introverted kid. You have a kid that doesn't want to speak up when they're sitting at a desk in school and they have to raise their hand and talk about a math problem. You
right, because
have,
math is stupid. Sitting in desks for 7 8 hours a day is
that's
stupid,
for sure.
especially for kids. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
kids are not built to do that. Don't get me started. I'm gonna
We
like
already got him started.
go on a tangent. Like we do all that really really wrong.
Yeah.
You know, it's just not conducive to what kids are meant to be doing.
No, and again, environment is such a huge part of your identity. And when you're forced into this environment that most kids don't thrive in for in your entirety of your childhood, adolescence,
I don't
coming of
thrive in it.
age, you
I
know?
like the hour that I sit still here is like
You need like an exercise ball
Yeah.
to, yeah,
Like it's just not,
I know.
it's just not it's not in my DNA. It's not my identity. That's why I don't like coaches that run a class and sit in the same or stand in the same place through the whole class. Like
Yeah.
I want to see that they're engaged and that they're passionate about what they're doing, so they're moving around and whatever. And maybe it's just because that's how I am and that's what I want to see. But anyway.
Identity, environment,
Yep.
moving around for Ryan. All right. That is our look at the fight for identity. If you enjoyed this discussion.
So you just made me think of something else.
Oh, good.
No. So,
yeah.
let me see your hands.
Oh.
Just part of your hands. This right here.
My soft as butter hands.
Yeah.
Thank
but I mean, that's.
I've got them on the second.
And I know we're done, but like, it's a good example of like, apparently somebody on TikTok.
It's TikTok.
God, I'm so glad I don't have TikTok because it must be the most ridiculous thing ever.
It's a terrible place.
I guess in one of our episodes we said something about you can't give other people calluses, which should be like this should not be something that should be open to debate whatsoever. Like,
and yet,
and in that process, I guess somebody said that you didn't show calluses because you probably don't have them.
Which, like, if I didn't, still, like, whatever.
Yeah, like, what are we talking about? Like, that still doesn't make it untrue.
Right.
Like that you cannot give somebody else calluses. But again, it's like the idea of attaching an identity to an action or a movement or, seeing what you think of somebody on social media and then you extrapolating, oh, well, they must be.
A 40-second clip, like, yeah, and now you know everything about me.
Right. And so, again, just to kind of reiterate, I think I understand how easily it happens on social media where you could just very easily fall into this trap of trying to become somebody you're not because of dumbass comments like that, So anyway, it wasn't super relevant, but like it just hit me there at the end where it's like,
It's the opposite. Like, you're tearing down my identity, like, that I actually have because you want to put your identity.
But I think what happens is it's so easy to give somebody that you have never met before in your life, you're never going to meet, you don't know their name, they don't even have a real fucking photo of themselves on their account, and you're giving value, not you, but you're giving value to their comment. Why?
Yeah.
Why? It's like a couple years back we did the video with Seth, and the guy was like, this is a really great video, but man, that Ryan Hoover guy is painfully unlikable.
Yeah.
What did we do? I made a T-shirt, and we sold the T-shirt. Ryan Hoover is painfully unlikable.
I married him.
Like,
we went to the extremes.
It's like you can't give people that sort of power over shaping your identity. You just, or if you do, you're going to be perpetually unhappy. You're going to be perpetually chasing that next hit, that next high. You're gonna have to. It's the crocodile hunter effect. You're gonna have to keep doing things that push the limits, so people will push the buttons that allow you to feel that same way again. And as long as how you feel is attached to how people respond, you're never going to be happy. You're never going to be comfortable with whatever your identity is.
I think you called it the hamster wheel of doom.
Sounds right.
Like,
sure.
Yeah. But that social media hamster wheel is going to be very hard to get off.
Yeah. Okay, we can be done now.
You know what to do. Drop some comments, engage on social media, like, 5 stars, subscribe, share it to your friends. If you didn't enjoy this discussion, do all of those same things. Tell the world how terrible it is. Thanks for listening to Second Plan A, and we look forward to growing with you next time.
Thanks, everybody.